if you're like me, you can kind of get into strategy overload the more you learn to trade. There's a lot of cool ideas out there, but you can't watch them all at once. You've only got one morning session every day, right? And, you know, I've always been really interested in the orb trades, the opening range breakout, but it's really a mechanical trade. And I feel like I have better use of my brain to be looking at some of these divergences and more complicated analysis and letting an automation take care of my orb trades for me. So that's where the ORBie comes in. So I'm going to tell you about my orb automation, Autotrader bot, whatever you want to call it. But first, let me kind of explain how I came up with this idea in the first place, because I think you can work on any strategy yourself like this as well. The first thing I always like to do with a strategy is just literally take a look at how it does, what the actual patterns look like, and what all the kind of nuances are. And I'm a very visual person, so I like to just kind of whip up an indicator. And so that's what I did here. This isn't the ORBie, this is the ORB Wrangler indicator, and it plots the lines and the opening range for me. The lines are my targets and potential targets, because what I did is I loaded this so I could look at a bunch of different days really quickly and kind of find out which of these targets it was most likely to hit and which stop loss it was least likely to hit. And what I came up with was just a really, really simple version. And of course, now that I have the ORBie, I can do some more customizations and studies and really fine tune this thing. But what I like to do is just take the first 15 minutes of the New York opening range. And I find that this is a 5-minute chart, so it's the first 3 candles for the New York Open. And then I have a range and I can trade it. So what the ORB Wrangler does is just draw that opening range and then the targets. So I have these lines drawn every half range. So I watch the midpoint, I watch the range lines, and then I watch the next half point, then the full point, then 1.5. And I watch that to both sides. So the trade that I like to trade currently, and this might change, is the 15-minute opening range. The instant it breaks, I don't wait for a retest or a candle close or anything like that. We just take the break, we're in, and targeting a 1-to-1. So my target in this case would be this second line down here. My stop loss would be at the other side of the range. And once we get to halfway to the target, I trail my stop. And what I was doing was putting stop markets on both sides of my ORB Wrangler every morning. It was really distracting me from my MACD trades and some other things that I have going on. But I would put a stop market buy up here and a stop market sell down here. I would try to calculate the risk and figure out the quantity real quick. And I was getting really frustrated doing that. It is nice though, once you have that order sitting there, if you can get it in there, you just wait for the break and then set your target and your stop loss, cancel the other order, and you're good to go. But I honestly was getting bored putting these same orders in every day when I've got all this other cool stuff with order flow and all this other stuff that I want to look at. So ORBie was born. All right, ORBie is for NinjaTrader, and if you've never added an indicator or a strategy or anything to NinjaTrader before, what you'll do is go to your main account window and go to Tools, Import, and then NinjaScript Addon, and you can step through the process there, find the file, and import it. If you have never imported a strategy before, you'll probably get a little pop-up. I'll show you a screenshot of what that looks like, where it's asking you if it's okay to import the third-party script. The third party is me, and in this case, you want to go look me up. I am an approved NinjaTrader developer, so I'm listed on their ecosystem. You can go look me up and check me out. They background check us and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, you can click through that and it'll let you know once you have the strategy imported to your NinjaTrader. And then once you have a strategy imported, there's a couple different ways that you can get it running. The first way I'm going to show you is by adding it to your strategies tab. You can also add it to a chart and you'll get a couple of kind of extra little features there. There's also kind of some extra nuances, but we'll go into that. So if you want to add a strategy to the strategy tab, you can right click and go to New Strategy. It's also Control N. And we're going to go, in this case, we're going to go to Barbie bots and ORBie. And our bots always come with a license key, and you'll be able to get this from BullBarbie.com. If you have a free trial, that is your license key. And then if you continue your trial, you'll keep the same license key. We made it really easy. But here are the basic settings, and we're going to go through this in detail in just a second after I show you how to add it to the chart. But when you're in the strategies window, adding it this way, some of the most important things to make sure you don't forget is making sure that you have it in the correct account. And then if you want to adjust the time frame that you're looking at, and that doesn't matter unless you're doing re-entries, but we'll talk about that. And then of course the time. But let me show you, before we get to that, how you add this to a chart. So I just have a 5-minute MES chart here. And this little clipboardy guy up here is your strategies. So you can click on that, or you can right click, go to strategies, or Control S, and that'll bring up the same little dialog where we can find ORBie under BullBarbie bots. And then you can double click or hit add to add it just like you would an indicator. And your license should automatically populate if you've added it at any other time. But let's go ahead and talk about the different settings. So time is the very most important thing to set, because the bot needs to know when we're looking for our opening range. So the opening range start time, I put the default to the New York open, so that's 9:30. So the start hour is 9, start minute is 30, and then the duration is 15. That means starting at 9:30, we're going to watch for 15 minutes to determine what our opening range is. Okay, so this is new if you tried the beta trial version of my ORBie, but we talked about, like I was showing you with the Orb Wrangler indicator, kind of where my ranges are and what I'm looking for with that 1-to-1. And that's now adjustable. So you can set your target range. If you want to keep it 1-to-1, you can leave that, or you can change it. And then also the trail trigger. If any of this gets confusing at any point, you can hover over these words and it'll give you an explanation that hopefully helps. If you need more help, just let us know, we'll help you. But that is where you can adjust that. So maybe you're trading NASDAQ and it's getting some more volatile ranges. So you want to set that to 2x or something like that. Or you want to run some optimizations and test this thing, anything like that. I do want to note though, so I mentioned that we're not waiting for a candle close. So this bot's going to go in on price change. That means that if you're going to backtest and optimize this, you can't use the basic candle-based data. You need to get your tick data, which is a whole process, a whole different video. We can cover that later if we really need to. But for now, we're looking at, you can edit your targets and your trail target and your trail trigger down here. The other thing that I always add into my bots is the don't be a dick for a tick offset. That's what that stands for. And basically, sometimes we have situations like this where we'll kind of wick outside of the range before going the full other direction. And first of all, we have some ways that we'll kind of filter this trade out. Like if it's been really choppy and there's not follow through and it's just a really quiet time in the market. This is a breakout trade, so it's more likely to work when the market's going to break out. So if it's really quiet, we're going to be more cautious with it. But if we want to avoid getting wicked out, one of the first things that we can do is adjust this entry offset. So what that'll do is wait until we get to the range plus however many ticks. I have this default to 0 because that's what I was originally messing with. Lately, I've had a tick or two on this for ES, MES technically, or I usually multiply that by about 4 for NASDAQ. You can also set an offset for the take profit and the stop loss and the trail and the break even. So all of this, if you don't want to just be missed by a tick or two, you can set what you want that offset to be, just if that sort of thing annoys you as much as it annoys me, I guess. Okay, and if you think that it's going to be a really rough day for longs or shorts, you can turn that off or on here. There's another way you can do it when you have it loaded to the chart, so I'll show you that later, but you can also turn that off here. If you have this loaded via your strategy tab, this is where you can turn longs or shorts on or off. Okay, this is the other thing that I was talking about where this math is really hard at the New York Open when everything's moving really quickly. But the way that I calculate my risk, especially on a trade like this, we don't know what the opening range is going to be. That's the whole idea behind this trade, is the range is going to present itself, and then we're going to be calculating what our profit is based on that range. So we don't know what that is, but we do need to be able to have some risk on our account. So the way I calculate my stop loss is I know what this range is. After the first 15 minutes, I have a calculation of what that range is. So then I can calculate, I know how much a futures point is. I can see how much that range is worth. And I'm using micros because, especially with futures, these ranges can get pretty big. And that way I can control, really fine tune with MES or MNQ, how I can use this risk to my advantage as much as possible. So I can keep it really small, like $300, set a max quantity. So if I'm using micros, 10 MES is going to be 1 ES. That would be my max. Lately, we haven't been anywhere near that. I think we had 4 the other day, but a lot of times it's 1 or 2 to be able to fit inside of this max risk. If the trade won't fit inside of your max risk, if you've got this set to 1, and then we've got a massive opening range on NASDAQ and it's going to be $312, it's not going to allow you to take that trade. It's not going to happen. It won't enter. But yeah, that way I know, like based on this range, how many MES or MNQ I can fit and keep that range. The indicator is going to do it for me now. I don't have to do that math anymore. We also have max daily entries, and it's important to kind of understand how these two guys work together. So your max risk is going to be per entry. So if your max daily entry is 1, that's going to be $300 for that day. If your max risk is $300 and your max daily entry is 2, then your max risk for the day is really $600. Also, so the way I like to do this is I'll let 1 run on MES and 1 run on MNQ in the same account. That's how I keep control over the risk. I get that question a lot. And this is the same way I calculate risk for my other manual trades. It's just really hard to do this fast, so I have the bot do it for me. But let me reiterate again that I use micros for this, and I'm really conservative with this because bots can test your patience. They take the trade every time, no matter what, even if it doesn't really totally make sense. And so they'll go through periods of drawdown when the market's just not really right for that particular strategy, and your account and your trading emotions have to be able to take that. Algo trading is its own type of trading, just like futures trading is its own type of trading, and you have to have certain strategies in place to manage your accounts and everything with those strategies. It's a little bit different than regular manual trading, and you especially need to be paying attention to who allows automations and who doesn't if you're trying to put this kind of thing in a prop account. Just be aware. I'm going to get back to the settings in just a second, but I just want to stress that this isn't a black box that you can just set and forget. You do need to be paying attention. This should be more of a bot that assists you in your trades than completely takes over your trades while you're sitting at the beach, because things do happen, glitches do happen, and you do need to pay attention. And I always recommend with any automation, whether it's mine or anybody else's, test it in paper for a couple weeks. Take her out for drinks first. Don't expect everything all at once. And I swear, it's like Murphy's Law of trading. As soon as I put a bot on real money, it has like a 2-week losing streak. But enough about that. I want to explain what the quitting time and the kill time are down here. So what quitting time is on the Orb Wrangler, we have hay time, and that's when the lines hit the hay and stop printing. So we can kind of visually know that we're not going to look for an orb trade outside of that. Quitting time is when the bot is going to quit looking for a trade. And there are 390 minutes in the New York session, so that's what we have by default. So you can change that if you only want it to look for the first hour and a half, put 90 minutes in there, whatever it is. You can put, that's when the bot is going to quit looking for new entries, which is not to be confused with kill time. So this is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to kill the whole thing. So quitting time is going to stop looking for positions, but what if you're already in a position because it's been a really slow day and you can't hold that position with the overnight margin and things? You need a kill time to exit that trade and stop looking. Everything's going to be done at this time. Right now I have this set to 380 minutes by default, but put that to what you want. That is 10 minutes before the New York session ends, or it should be. Okay, let's talk about re-entry rules, because we do have where we can allow the bot to make more than one entry per day. So maybe we want to capture this trade and that trade and maybe some of these future trades. I have it set to just one right now. It was driving me crazy trying to take advantage of more of these. And also the re-entry gets a little bit complicated. So this do not re-enter on exit candle is really important. If you have this set in strategies, that's where that time frame that you set is going to be important. If you have it on the chart, it's going to be using your chart time frame. If you change your time frame of your strategy chart while the strategy is running, it's going to reset everything. So if you've already had an entry, it's going to set it back to 0. It's like, oh, I can look for new entries now. So I recommend, like, if you put this on a chart, just have that be your ORBie chart and don't mess with it. But what this is talking about, because this is specific to the way I manage the trade on this strategy, what happens a lot is we'll get trailed to break even. So let's say this one didn't actually hit the target, and but we got the trail here. So we trailed to break even. So we entered here. At this point, it trailed our stop to break even. Then we come back and hit it. So now we are out of the trade. And our rule was to exit the trade if it came back to break even, which we've done. Now, if it crosses this line again, it's going to re-enter because that's what we told the bot to do. So what this checkbox does is it's not going to re-enter on the same candle that it exits on. So if you're on a 1 minute chart, that's going to reset every 1 minute. If you're on a 5 minute chart, it's going to reset every 5 minutes. 1 minute's pretty fast. 5 minutes is pretty slow. But this is a little weirdness about how some NinjaTrader math works. When you're on your minute chart, you need to make sure, if you're using the re-entry rules with this don't re-enter on the exit candle, you need to make sure that your opening range duration is divisible by your time frame, because we don't want to get any partial minutes. It throws off the math and it throws off the strategy and everybody's unhappy. So if you have a 15-minute opening range duration, we have to make sure that we're in a chart that fits inside of that. 5-minute chart, 15 can be divided by 5, good to go. 1 minute chart, 15 is dividable by 1, good to go. 3-minute chart, 15 is dividable by 3, good to go. That's usually my middle ground, by the way. 2-minute doesn't work. We're going to end up with a decimal, not good to go. So pay attention to that. Okay, this is related to the kill time, but I also just like duplicated this because everybody asked for it. You can also have an option to exit at market close just to make sure everything's out. Things do happen. Scripts do glitch, especially on live data. So, we like to have a bunch of safeties. The other thing that I have is show the high-low orb lines. This, of course, is only going to work on a chart, but I'll show that to you. So the other thing that you need to do, otherwise none of this is going to work, is hit enable. And if you're just loading it from the chart, it's easiest to do it from this menu, but you have to scroll down and do that. And then we'll hit apply. This is the lines that I was talking about. This is the show orb high and low line. It's this pink and blue line. So I decided to differentiate this from the orb wrangler in case you want to use both. All of our members get both automatically anyway. So this one has all of the lines. They're adjustable. You can add more lines if you want to. And it also has all of these lines labeled. Maybe you want a super clean chart and you just want to see this high and low line. So I put those on there. I put it in pink and blue instead of red and green in case you want to have both. If you like the overkill chart, that option's there also. So something that you haven't seen if you were on the old version, and I think this is pretty cool, are this little info box down here is now added to the chart when your strategy is enabled to a chart. So what this does is we can really quickly enable shorts and longs or turn them off if we don't want them. Maybe, there's some news coming on and we just want to real quick hit this. We can do this here instead of going through the menu and doing it that way. The other thing is it has the math for you here. So I was allowing $300 of risk. So it's measured, this range is 14.5 points. So when I calculate that out with MES, I can take 4 of them because it's a $72.50 position, so I can fit 4 of those into $300, that turns out to $290. So I just add this little info box because I like to know what's going on. Maybe you do too. Okay, if you're in a position and you really want to take control for some reason, the bot is not going to let you as long as it's enabled. As long as the bot's enabled, it's going to be managing that trade. If you drag your profit or your stop, the next price change, it's going to take back over and fix it for you. So if for some reason you want to take over the trade, the way that I do it is I come over into my strategy tab and it'll say I'm in a position if I'm already in a trade, but I'm not. If you're in a position and you turn your trade and you turn your strategy off, the position should still be going. There are some settings, so you might have to check it if this doesn't work. Of course, try it in sim first. But the trade should still be allowed to go, and then you can drag your profit or stop loss and manage the trade yourself. If you want to just bail, you want to exit and turn the strategy off all at once and the strategy is enabled, if you exit your trade, it's going to exit the trade and turn the strategy off. All right, of course, I can't make any promises of success or profits or anything like that, but you can see the results that we're getting and come chat with us in the Trading Ranch. I'll drop a link so you can get into our Trading Ranch Discord for free right now. And I do recommend babysitting any strategies like this. Consider them assistants and not full black boxes, and get to know them first in sim first. And I don't mean a sim evaluation, I mean an actual sim account. Otherwise you can't get mad at me. Of course, if you have any other questions or just want to talk nerdy trading stuff a little bit, come find me after you watch the next video, and I'll see you real soon. Love you.